welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Alexa Ray. And welcome to another video. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are doing my mid-year book tag today. I am so excited. I've actually completed my 2023 reading goal. I am just as surprised as you are. Literally, I could not believe it. I actually just finished my 50th book of 2023 yesterday, I think. I cannot believe it. It's like so exciting to have completed my goal already, and I'm excited to see how many more books I read in 2023. See if I can read another 50 books. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? For today's video, I'm going to be doing my mid-year book tag for you guys. We're gonna be talking about all the books I read so far in 2023. I'm going to be answering all the mid-year book questions for you guys. I am so very excited. First off though, we're gonna talk stats for my reading so far this year. We're gonna go into Storygraph and kind of dive deeper into the books I've been reading. We're gonna see what type of books I've been reading, how many pages I've read, you know, all the fun extra stuff. So far this year, I have read a total of 17,080 pages. That's like crazy to even think about. Right here is like a mood chart, so it's all the different types of moods I've been reading in my books. My biggest one is actually emotional reads, which I feel like that's pretty accurate. I feel like all the books I have read so far this year are very emotional reads. My next biggest tier is adventurous. I guess that makes sense because I did complete the Shatter Me series and there's a lot of adventure in there. I feel like I've read a lot of adventure. Oh, and these two books. Can't wait to talk about all these books with you guys. The average length of books I've been reading is between 300 and 499 pages. I feel like that's pretty accurate. I've been reading 100% fiction so far this year. There are a few memoirs that I really want to read like in the next half of the year, but so far it's just been all fiction. And then my genres, we have romance, contemporary, young adult, dystopian, and fantasy. My most read authors so far this year are Tara Maffei, Lauren Asher, Emily McIntyre, Krista Ritchie, Kara Cass, Elsie Silver. I'm not surprised about Tara Maffei because, as I mentioned, I literally have read her entire Shatter Me series so far this year. Lauren Asher, also not a big surprise. Emily McIntyre is the Never After novels. I am absolutely obsessed with all of her books. Her newest one, Crossed, is actually coming out August 1st. I cannot wait to read that. It's like the Hunchback of Notre Dame reimagining, and that was one of my favorite Disney movies growing up, so I can't wait for that. My average star rating for books is 3.98. We're kind of leaning towards the 4-star rating, which I feel like is very accurate. I say this all the time on my channel, but I rarely read a book that I don't like. My ratings definitely are on the high side on my channel. Rarely do I give a 2 or 1-star rating. I honestly don't even know if I've ever rated a book 1 star. So that's like a good thing, if you ask me. So next up, I'm quickly gonna go through all 50 books I read this year and tell you guys my ratings. I'm not gonna go too into depth about any of them because a lot of these books are already reading vlogs at my channel, so definitely go check those out if you haven't already. If you wanna see more specifics on a book, if you wanna get more of my opinions on a certain book, go check out previous reading vlogs or definitely pop a question down below for me because I reply to every single comment. But I read a total of 50 books. It always gets to a point in the day where the sun is like too much. Now that that's all situated, I'm gonna quickly go through every book I've read this year and give you guys my rating on it. We've read a total of 50 books, which is so crazy. The first book I read this year was Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, and I wound up rating this 4 stars. It was my first Sophie Lark book and I was so impressed with it. Then I picked up Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is the first Never After novel and it's the first book I've ever read by Emily McIntyre. Made me fall in love with her writing. These are dark fairy tale reimaginings if you're not familiar. This is a Peter Pan dark reimagining and it revolves around Captain Hook from Peter Pan and Wendy Darling. This was such a good read and I'm starting to see so many people actually pick it up now and give it a try, and it makes me so happy because I feel like Emily McIntyre is so underrated. I love her writing style and the way she takes her favorite classic fairy tales and twists and changes them. It's just so much fun. This was definitely a 5-star read for me. It was the first 5-star of 2023. Then I moved on to King of Wrath by Anna Hong. This is book 1 in the Kings of Sin series, and she's the same author of the Twisted series, which I actually read last year. Loved the Twisted series so much, and King of Wrath actually takes place in the same world as the Twisted series. This was really fun. I wound up giving it 4 stars. Then I picked up Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is just your typical hockey romance. I absolutely loved it. If you like the off-campus series, I feel like you'll absolutely love this. Icebreaker was 5 stars for me. Next up, I wound up jumping in to Shatter Me. This is the first book in the series, and this entire series was so good. I've never read anything like it. It was also my first Tara Mafi book. She writes in a very poetic, pretty writing style. There's a lot of repetition throughout the story, and you're basically reading it as if you're in the main character's head. It's so cool. It's so fun. There's a lot of action and adventure in here. There's a love triangle. This was 5 stars and definitely one of my favorite books of 2023. Next up, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. She is the author of The Love Hypothesis. I wound up rating it 2 stars, which was a little disappointing because I loved The Love Hypothesis so much. Then I jumped in to The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This was actually my first book by Lynn Painter, and so many people rave about her writing. I hear incredible things about Better Than the Movies, which I definitely want to get to later on this year. It was really cute. I gave this 3 stars. Then I read Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I originally picked this book up because I was obsessed with the cover. I thought it was so cute, so pretty. I gave it 3 stars because it was just a little bit on the slower side for me. It took me a little bit to get through it, and then immediately after I picked up Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. This is another book I picked up strictly because of how pretty this cover is. It really wasn't like my favorite. I wound up giving this 2 stars. It was another book that I thought had a lot of potential. Then we jumped in to The Addicted World. I read the first book, which is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the story of 2 best friends, liars, lovers, addicts, one epic love story. This is another 3-star read for me just because it was something very different compared to what I usually read. It is a romance, but it revolves around addiction, so it was definitely very different in my opinion, and I did fall in love with the 2 main characters, Lily and Lo. I love them. I adore them. They just irritated the heck out of me when reading this. Then I read Scarred, which is book 2 in the Never After novels. This was a Lion King reimagining, and I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Throttled, which is book 1 in the Dirty Air series. This is by Lauren Asher, and I wound up giving this 3 stars. I feel like this was really fun. I felt like something was missing in it, and it was also my first ever Lauren Asher book, so I didn't really know what to expect going into it. Then I jumped back into The Addicted World. I read Ricochet. This is book 2 in the series, and I rated this, I believe, 4 stars. Then we jumped back into The Shatter Me world. I read the first novella, which is Destroy Me. I rated it 3 stars. It was from the point of view of Warner. Then I jumped into Unravel Me. I gave this 5 stars, and then back to the novellas. We read Fracture Me. This is from Adam's point of view, and I rated it 2 stars and fell out of love with Adam. Then we jumped in to the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. This is such a popular series that everyone has fallen in love with. This is a book that I tried to read back in 2021. I couldn't get into it. I feel like the beginning part of it is very slow to begin with, and it was just really hard for me to like get hooked on the story. So I wound up picking it up again this year and giving it a try. I have to say it was still really slow in the beginning, but once I got like 100 pages in, the story started to really take off, and it was really fun and magical. This was 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was very hard for me to get into it at first, but once I got into it, I was like forever changed. Then we jumped in to the Selection series by Kiara Cass. This is like a YA dystopian romance series. It's another love triangle, and I think I mentioned this when I did like the reading vlogs for this series, but it's basically like The Bachelor meets dystopian world. I wound up rating book 1, I believe, 4 stars. I thought it was super fun. It was very different. Then I jumped in and read The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This was 2 stars. Because I read A Court of Thorns and Roses and then The Selection and then this, I felt like I was reading the same storyline over and over again, but like in different fonts. I might try and go back and reread it to see if I would change my opinion on it. Then we jump in to the books that changed reading for me. I read all 3 books in this series in a row, and I'm still not the same. They are still my favorite books. I have the Chestnut Spring series. These were all 5-star reads. The first one is Flawless, the second one is Heartless, and then we have Powerless. These are by Elsie Silver, and the covers are absolutely stunning. But I love these books so very much. You guys will probably hear me talk about these books a lot throughout the video, so I'm gonna hang on to them. After that series though, I jumped back to the ACOTAR series. I read A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the book that everyone raves about on the internet. They say this is the book that changes like your whole opinion on the story. This was a crazy read. It was honestly like a gazillion stars for me. I loved this book so much. Then we jumped into Wretched, another Never After novel. This was a Wizard of Oz reimagining. I gave it 3 stars. I was a little disappointed because the first 2 books in the series were like amazing, and this one just like ugh. Then we jumped into the Dreamland Billionaire series. I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This was book 1. This was so good. This was 4 stars as well. It gives off all the Disney vibes. I loved Zara and Rowan's story so much. It made my heart so happy. Then we jumped into 2 books that honestly changed my life when it came to the reading world. They were so amazing. Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is book 1. I rated this 4 stars, and then immediately after I went and read The Ballad of Never After, which was easily a 5-star read for me. I am obsessed with Jax and Evangeline. These books make me so happy. These are really fun, easygoing fantasy reads. I would totally recommend these if you're trying to get into the fantasy genre. I would recommend these over the ACOTAR series, to be completely honest, because I feel like with A Court of Thorns and Roses, it's such a fun and exciting fantasy series, but I feel like there is a lot to them. There's a lot of characters and names and just words in general that, in my opinion, I found hard to keep track of and pronounce. With these though, these were so fun, fast-paced, easygoing reads. The magic and romance was definitely in there. I am so excited for book 3 to come out. Then I jumped into book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is Terms and Conditions. This tells the story of Declan and Iris. This is a workplace romance as well as a marriage of convenience romance. I rated this 4 stars as well. Then I went in and read The Elite. This is book 2 in the Selection series. I wound up giving this 3 stars. I found America's character to be so irritating. Then I read Addicted for Now, which is book 3 in the Addicted series. I wound up rating this 4 stars because we just see such incredible character development between Lily and Lo in this, and I just loved it so much. Then I read Miss Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. If you know, you know. It's a very controversial read. I feel like people either love it or hate it. I gave it 5 stars. So then we jumped into the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series, which is Ignite Me. This is people's favorite book in the Shatter Me series. It was also supposed to be the last book in the series, and then Tara Mafi came back a few years later and actually added on to it. This was a gazillion stars. We have The Mistake by Al Kennedy. This is book 2 in the Off Campus series. It tells the story of John Logan and Grace. I think I gave this 3 stars. I was super disappointed when reading this because The Deal is like one of my favorite reads ever, so this was like really disappointing. Then we have My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and L.J. Shen. This was a book that I randomly picked up off of Amazon because the cover is absolutely stunning. Everything about this book was like calling to me. It was 3 stars. It was another book I was kind of disappointed about. Book 3 in the Dreamland Billionaire series, The Final Offer. This was a gazillion stars. I loved this so much. It is on the chunkier side, but I was not bored 1 second of reading this. Like every chapter I just loved so much. Cal and Alana's story is one of my favorites. The friends to lovers in this was absolutely incredible. Then we wrapped up the Selection series, the 3rd one, with The One. I wound up giving this 4 stars. We have Twisted by Emily McIntyre. This is book 4 in the series, and it was an Aladdin reimagining, another one of my favorite Disney movies. At first I didn't really like it, and actually it wound up being 4 stars for me. The vibes definitely came along later on in the story. Then I went in and read the next 4 books in the Shatter Me series. We have 2 novellas, Shadow Me and Reveal Me. I rated both of them 4 stars. Kenji's Point of View. Then we have Restore Me. This was 5 stars, and Defy Me, it was 4 stars. There's like a weird turn of events in this book that really caught me off guard. We have book 2 in the Dirty Air series, Collided. I wound up rating this 4 stars, I think. I really liked this one. This was about Sophie and Liam. It was another book I tabbed the heck out of because it was so cute. Then I wrapped up the Shatter Me series with Imagine Me and Believe Me. These were both 4 stars. Then I have book 3 in the Dirty Air series. We have Wrecked. This tells the story of Elena and Jax. This was 5 stars. I loved their story so much. It's very mental health heavy, and the characters just seem so realistic in this. I read a cutie little summer romance called My Killer Vacation. This is by Tessa Bailey. I gave this 3 stars. It was very insta-lovey, but it was also really fun because it was like a murder mystery. Then I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was another one of my favorite reads of 2023, to be honest. I'm not really big on Emily Henry books. I read one of her books last year, did not vibe with it, and kind of scared me off from ever reading a book by her again, and I finally decided to give it a try because so many people were saying such incredible things about this. I'm so happy I did. Gazillion stars. Then I read Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This ended up being, I believe, 4 stars. It's the second book after It Happened One Summer, and then the last book I just recently finished was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is my first ever Lucy Score book. I'm like obsessed with this, and I'm so excited to read the next book in the series. This was also 5 stars. So now that we've gone through every single book that I've read this year, crazy I've read 50 books. Okay, we are now going to be jumping into the mid-year book tag questions. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? And I actually kind of split it up into 2 separate questions. I put what is the best book that you've read this year, as well as what is the best book series you've read so far this year. And that's because it was really hard for me to pick just one single book that would top every other book I've read so far this year. I'm going to talk quickly about books that are like my favorite books so far this year, and then I'm going to show you guys the series that I am just absolutely obsessed with. First one I have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was a 5-star read for me, and I put this as one of the best books I've read so far this year because it literally blew me away. I did not like Emily Henry going into this. I'm now like obsessed with her. I am definitely turning into an Emily Henry girly. One of my next reads is Beach Read by her. This just changed like all of my viewpoints on her writing. At first I didn't really like it. I thought it was very slow and boring and bland, but in this one it was the complete opposite. Also, her books just give off like the best summery vibes, which I absolutely love. This tells the story of Wynne and Harriet, and their love story is just... I keep them close to my heart. Next up I have Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I said this early on, it's a very controversial book. You either hate this book or you love it. I don't view this book as like a romance, honestly, because there is a lot of toxic things that take place in this book. You know, there's drug abuse, there's cheating, and it literally rips your heart up, basically. I wound up giving this 5 stars, and it wound up being one of my favorite reads of 2023 because, one, it gives off Gossip Girl vibes, and I love Gossip Girl. This is like basically Gossip Girl, but in England. And then I also fell in love with this story just because I like related to a lot of the characters in this, and it just pulled out so many feelings. Like, I sobbed multiple times while reading this. I love this book. I love it for the Gossip Girl vibes. I love it for the drama and craziness in it. Then I have Icebreaker by Hannah Graves. This is another book that I hear so many people say they didn't like. I personally adored it. It definitely gave off-campus vibes. I loved Nate Hawkins. I thought he was such a gentleman throughout the whole story. I thought their whole relationship was so sweet. You know, it's definitely heavy on the friends to lovers. There is like a minor enemies to lovers in it, but I think the friends to lovers like tops it. And then I also have Hooked and Scarred. These I loved these books so much. They are fairy tale reimaginings. We have Peter Pan and The Lion King. If you love Disney movies and you love dark romances, I highly recommend these books. The writing was incredible. The storyline, the plot twist was crazy. Honestly, I definitely see myself rereading those very soon. Next up we have what is the best book series you've read so far this year. I have 3. These are my favorite books at the moment. I will probably probably never stop talking about them. First one is the Shatter Me series. This is life-changing. If you have not read these books, I highly recommend, especially if you're not very big into the romance genre. These are perfect for you because it's like a good mix of everything. There's adventure, action, drama, romance, so much fun. The found family in this series is also like one of my favorites, honestly. It makes my heart so happy, and it's just like a roller coaster. Then I have the Dreamland Billionaire series. This was such a feel-good series. I loved all these books. The fine print was a workplace romance. It was a little bit of enemies to lovers. It was so cute. I love this so much. It gives off all the Disney vibes. Terms and Conditions is also a workplace trope, also a marriage of convenience. Declan and Iris are just so sweet. I love that Declan knows exactly what he wants, like throughout this entire story. The Final Offer is Cal and Alana's story. This is a friends to lovers trope as well. It's a second chance trope. It's also a single parent trope. Something about the single parent trope it always gets me. Tugs at my heartstrings. This was such an emotional, crazy read. I absolutely loved it. Throughout this whole story, Cal is struggling with addiction and his character development is just incredible, and I adored this so much. And then last but not least, we have the Chestnut Spring series. You guys already know I love this series so much. I have talked about it so much on my channel. Book one is flawless. It tells the story of Rhett and Summer. Rhett is like this bad boy bull rider, and Summer comes in and basically I think she's like there to kind of babysit him. Then we jump in to Heartless. This tells the story of Cade and Willa. Willa is like the best friend to Summer, and then Cade is the older brother to Rhett. He lives back home on the ranch and he takes care of like the farm and the animals. He's also a single father. Willa comes in to basically help him out during the summer and be a babysitter. Something about the single parent trope really gets me. I loved this so much. It was tugging at my heartstrings. Again, I love their love. It was another enemies to lovers, which was so cute. And then the next book is Powerless. This tells the story of Jasper and Sloane. This is a little bit different from the first two books. Jasper is like the best friend to the Eaton brothers, and then Sloane is the cousin to Rhett and Cade. So Sloane also grew up with Jasper. This is a friends to lovers romance. It's kind of like a second chance. Now that they're older, Sloane is a ballerina and Jasper is a professional hockey player. The relationship is so cute. The next question is, what is the best sequel you've read this year? I have 3 sequels that I honestly still cannot stop thinking about. The first one, I'm sure you all could have guessed it, is A Court of Mist and Fury. This was such a crazy sequel to me because in book 1, I thought I had a good idea of the main characters. I thought I had a good idea of which characters I really loved and didn't love, and then this happened. Dare I say that in book 1, I was a Tamlin girly? Yeah, we're gonna forget that ever happened, because once I read book 2, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not a Tamlin girly. Like, this is absolutely incredible. I love the Bat Boys. They really get you in this one. Then I have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is so good. I like can't even stress it enough, like how good this series is. So book 1 is Once Upon a Broken Heart, and at the end of that we're kind of left on a cliffhanger, and it's like the craziest cliffhanger, and then you get into book 2 and you're like, how is this going to work out? This was so good. I fell so madly in love with Jax in book 2. I cannot wait for book 3. It's like all I can think about now that I'm like revisiting these books for this video. And then the last book I have is Heartless by Elsie Silver. I just thought this was an incredible second book. It is technically a standalone, but it takes place in the same world. We revisit Summer and Rhett in this book, and this book really got me. I thought I couldn't love a book more than I loved Flawless, and then I read book 2 and I was like, oh, okay. Next we have What is a New Release That You Haven't Read Yet? Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is book 4 in the Chestnut Spring series. It tells the story of Winter and Theo. This I have not yet read, but I'm literally about to start it for a reading vlog. This book literally just came out, I think like a month ago, so I'm really excited to jump back into the Chestnut Springs world because I missed it so much, and I missed all the characters, the found family in these stories. It makes me so happy. They literally all live like on the same plot of land, so we see all the same characters throughout all 4 books, and it just makes me so happy. I think it's like a secret baby trope, and I think what happens is Winter and Theo have like a one-night stand, and then Winter actually gets pregnant with Theo's baby. So that's gonna be crazy. And then another new release that I haven't yet read is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is like her newest one. I have heard very, very good things about it, so I'm super excited to jump into that. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year, I actually have like a list of books. I am so excited, and they're actually all on pre-order right now. The first one is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is gonna be the story of Lucian and Sloane. You see these two characters throughout Things We Never Got Over, and I'm honestly already in love with them. Like, I can't wait to read about their story and why Sloane despises him so much. I'm so excited. That comes out, I think, later in the year, maybe like October, November. I have Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This is coming out August 1st. It's the Hunchback of Notre Dame reimagining. I am so excited. We have Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna see it this year. There's a possibility. I have Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. I believe this is coming out a little bit later in the year, and it's actually going to be her first YA romance, so I think that's going to be a super fun one. We have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is her newest romance series. It actually takes place in the same universe as her first two series, so I'm so excited. In every series, you kind of get a minor glimpse into other characters from her other series. I believe the character we meet at the end of Final Offer is the character that book 1 is going to revolve around. I have A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is book 3. I'm hoping we get to see the romance we've been dying to see in book 1 and book 2. I hope we see it finally in book 3. I'm so excited though. Like, it's all I've been thinking about. And then I also have down Archer's Voice. Forever Publishing is coming out with a special edition of Archer's Voice. It's gonna be a hardcover book with foil detailing, and then I believe also Mia Sheridan has like her own annotations throughout the book. Gonna be really cool to see how she kind of came up with the story and the characters. What is your biggest surprise read of 2023 so far? I put down Happy Place. I was not an Emily Henry girly, and then I read this and I was like, okay, maybe I am an Emily Henry girly. Absolutely love this book. It was a huge surprise to me. Magnolia Parks was another big surprise to me. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did because of how like toxic the whole story was. But I ended up really loving it. Special place in my heart for Miss Magnolia Parks. And then I also have A Court of Thorns and Roses. This was a huge surprise to me because I'm not really big on the fantasy genre, but this kind of kickstarted me getting into it, and I really enjoyed it. I loved book 2, and I'm excited to complete the rest of the series. Who is your favorite new author for 2023? I put down Elsie Silver, Lauren Asher, and Lucy Score. Who is your newest fictional crush? That is like one of the hardest questions I think to answer whenever I do a video like this. I read so many incredible books and I fall in love with so many characters. I have listed Aaron Warner from the Shatter Me series. I have Nate Hawkins from Icebreaker. His character was just such a sweetheart. I have the Dreamland Billionaire Boys, Declan, Cal, and Rowan. The Chestnut Spring Boys. They are so sweet. I also put down the Bat Boys because who's not in love with the Bat Boys? And then last but not least, I put Jax down from The Ballad of Never After, and I think we're gonna see in book 3 how everything plays out and if I'm still in love with him, because I'm either gonna love him more in book 3 or I'm going to like have to disown him. What are books that have made you cry so far this year? I have 4 picked out. The first one I have is Booked by Emily McIntyre. Got a few tears out of me towards the end because there's like this crazy plot twist and you don't know what happens. I was like an emotional wreck. I just remember the sheer panic I had reading the last few chapters of this, and I was like sobbing because I'm like, this better work out the way I want it to. Then I have The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Cal and Alana's story is so touching. You know, throughout the story we're watching as Cal battles his addiction. His character development is just so good in this. I have Wrecked, also by Lauren Asher. This is about Jax and Elena. Another book that had me sobbing throughout the entire story because both Jax and Elena come from very difficult family path. I was sobbing right off the beginning because this book starts off really heavy. Magnolia Parks. I definitely sobbed during Magnolia Parks. It was a very frustrating, annoying read because of the events that take place in this. It just like drove me crazy, but I loved it. What is a book that made you happy? I feel like that's such a hard question to answer because technically all of the books I've read so far this year have made me happy. Like, I've genuinely enjoyed every book I've read. I would pick Happy Place. Happy Place genuinely made me really happy. I loved when in Harriet's story it pulled out so much emotion from me. I think I would also say The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. It just gives off all the rom-com vibes, so that also made me really happy. What is a book you didn't enjoy as much as you thought you would? I actually have a few. The first one was The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Again, I feel like I have to go back, give this another try because I literally read it after reading Shatter Me, The Selection, and A Court of Thorns and Roses. So by the time I got to this story, I already had read similar stories. This was kind of boring in my opinion. My Dark Romeo was super disappointing. I wanted to love this so much, but I just didn't. I didn't like the main characters really. I didn't think they had any chemistry. Dallas was just, she was not it for me. I was also very disappointed with The Mistake because The Deal is like one of my favorite books ever. This was very disappointing, but I do hear a lot of good things about book 3 in the series, so I definitely want to keep going. There was like a conflict in this story and then it was immediately resolved after a chapter or two, and I was like, okay, there's nothing really to it. And then the last book was Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. I wanted to love this so much, especially because of the cover. It's so stinking cute. It had potential. It just wasn't for me though. What are the most beautiful books that you've bought so far this year? This is so hard for me because I have so many like super pretty books. I'm gonna start off with My Dark Romeo. This is definitely one of the prettiest book covers I own. The vibes are just amazing. The Magnolia Park series, like the entire series is absolutely stunning. They actually are coming out with new covers and I'm not too crazy on them, so I'm super happy I was able to get my hands on the OG covers before they went away completely. These are absolutely stunning, and I actually saw somewhere that the person who created the covers for these books, it was like their first time ever doing it. Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, these are Barnes & Noble special editions, and then I also have covers coming in the mail because I'm absolutely obsessed with them. I think they're so gorgeous. And then when you take the cover off, they actually have the spell books or potion books that we actually read about. I also love the map. Chestnut Spring series. I think these covers are so stinking cute. They literally give off all the country cowboy vibe. They're so cute. I love these so much. And then the last question we have, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I think this is another super funny question because honestly, I would like to read every book I have on my TBR. I have such a crazy long TBR right now and I really would like to tackle it by the end of the year. The fact that I've read 50 books so far, like in the first 6 months of this year, gives me a lot of hope because maybe I can read another 50 books by the end of the year, and if I read another 50 books, I will have tackled like the majority of my TBR. I have a ton of books on my physical TBR, and I'm actually on a book buying ban until further notice. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listen to me ramble on and on about books. It's literally my favorite thing in the world. I am so incredibly grateful that I'm able to sit here every day and talk to you guys about books. We've created such a cutie, beautiful community over here on YouTube that I'm just forever thankful for. But let me know down below though how many books you've read so far this year and what your 2023 reading goal is. Mine was 50 books and I've already completed it. I am so incredibly proud of myself. I didn't see this coming, to be completely honest, because last year my goal for 2022 was to read 50 books and I actually didn't reach my goal. So I put 50 books down as my goal for 2023 thinking that hopefully I would be able to get to it, and we are literally 6 months into the year. We're halfway through and I have completed my reading goal. So but I am gonna stop rambling because I've been rambling on and on for like 30 minutes already. So I love you guys so much and I'll see you in my next video.
That's